You are not the body. You are not the mind. You are consciousness, temporarily inhabiting matter, but never bound by it. Every breath you take is a rehearsal for the great exhalation, the one we call death. And yet, death is no end. It is a migration, a passage, a return. The ancients knew this. The Egyptians embalmed the body because they understood that the soul, in the days after death, hovers near the physical form, reluctant to leave what it once animated. The Tibetans wrote the Bardo Thodol, the Book of the Dead, a manual for navigating the states of consciousness that unfold after the last heartbeat. And in the 20th century, a man named Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, entered trance states where he spoke with stunning detail about the soul's journey after death. He said that the first 7 days are critical. The soul, still tethered to the earth plane, drifts between worlds, pulled by memory, attachment, and love. Let us walk together through those 7 days. Day 1, the moment of release. At the instant of death, the soul experiences separation from the body. Cayce described it as slipping out as one would slip from a glove. There is no pain, only a release, as if a heavy garment has been dropped. Modern accounts of near-death experiences echo this. People describe floating above their bodies, hearing doctors pronounce them gone, seeing loved ones weep. Science dismisses this as hallucination, yet quantum physics itself admits consciousness cannot be localized in matter. In that first day, the soul often remains close to the body. Some feel confusion. Am I dead or am I dreaming? Others feel joy, lightness, freedom, peace. Ancient texts tell us this is why rituals were performed immediately after death: incense, prayers, chants. They were not empty rites. They were vibrational technologies designed to orient the departing soul. The Egyptians called the body Khat and the soul Ba. They believed the Ba would hover, observing, unsure whether to cling to the body or move on. Cayce confirmed this. The newly departed often remain attached, especially if the death was sudden. They linger at the funeral. They listen to conversations. They wait. Day 2, the pull of attachment. On the second day, the soul feels the magnetism of what it has left behind. Cayce described souls walking through familiar rooms, touching familiar objects, trying to speak with loved ones. They often attempt to embrace, but their hands pass through. This is where grief cuts deepest, not only for the living, but for the soul itself. The Tibetan Book of the Dead warns, beware of clinging, for clinging binds the soul to the lower planes. The Gnostics, persecuted for their wisdom, taught that the soul must break through the archons, energetic gatekeepers of the astral plane, who feed on unresolved emotion. Attachment generates density, and density keeps the soul circling in confusion. But love, when transmuted into blessing, becomes a ladder of light. This is why Cayce urged the living not to despair, but to pray for the departed. Thought, he said, is a current. The prayers of the living reach the dead like beams across a river. Day 3. The review begins. On the third day, something extraordinary begins. The soul experiences the panoramic review of its life. Cayce described it as reliving every moment, yet not only from your own perspective, but from the perspective of everyone you ever touched. Every word, every glance, every kindness or cruelty, you feel it, not as memory, but as reality. Science hints at this in the mystery of memory storage. Where is memory located? Not in the brain alone, for people with damaged brains still recall. Memory exists in fields, holographic and non-local. The Egyptians painted this truth in the weighing of the heart ceremony. The heart was weighed against the feather of Ma'at, goddess of truth, too heavy with unintegrated deeds, and the soul would descend into lower realms. Cayce echoed this in modern terms: no eternal damnation, but a vibrational alignment. The soul gravitates to the realm its choices resonate with. Day 4. Encounters with guides. On the fourth day, the soul often encounters helpers. Cayce described luminous beings, sometimes ancestors, sometimes guides from higher planes. The Tibetan spoke of peaceful deities appearing. Christianity tells of angels at the gates. These are not fantasies. They are frequencies. Consciousness, freed from the body, perceives reality in layers. Just as a radio, tuned correctly, receives stations that were always there, the soul now receives transmissions from higher beings. But beware, Cayce warned that not all entities appearing are benevolent. Some are thought forms, projections of the soul's own fears. This is the essence of the second stage of the Bardo Thodol, the terrifying visions. The Gnostics, too, spoke of false lights designed to trick the soul into cycles of reincarnation. The task is discernment, to recognize fear as illusion, to choose love as orientation. Day 5. The dissolving of earthly bonds. By the fifth day, the pull of the earth weakens. The soul begins to lose interest in possessions, in titles, in unresolved disputes. Cayce said the soul sees the futility of these attachments as if watching shadows dissolve at sunrise. Science observes something similar in altered states of consciousness. Under psychedelics or deep meditation, the sense of ego, the I, me, mine, dissolves. The brain's default mode network quiets, revealing a vast, interconnected field. Death is the ultimate version of this dissolution. The ancients knew. This is why Tibetan lamas whispered instructions in the ears of the dead. Do not cling. Do not fear. Remember who you are. They knew the fifth day was a pivot, the choice to ascend toward light or wander as a ghost in the lower astral. Day 6. The passage through realms. The sixth day is marked by travel. Cayce described the soul moving through spheres, layers of vibration, each more subtle than the last. Some called this heaven, others planes of consciousness. In truth, they are frequencies. The Egyptians mapped them as the duat, the underworld journey with gates and guardians. The soul was questioned. What did you do with your life? Did you honor the divine spark within? These were not punishments, but energetic checkpoints. Quantum physics gives us metaphors. Just as electrons jump orbits without traversing the space between, the soul shifts frequencies instantly, drawn by resonance. Where you go depends on what you are. Your vibrational signature is the passport. If you lived in fear, resentment, cruelty, you gravitate to realms dense with those frequencies. If you cultivated love, compassion, wisdom, you rise to realms radiant with light. Day 7. The threshold. On the seventh day, the soul approaches the threshold. Cayce described it as a decision point, to rest in higher realms, to return in reincarnation, or to remain earthbound if unresolved. The Tibetans called this the final stage of the bardo. The soul recognizes the clear light, the radiance of its own higher self. If it merges, liberation is achieved. If it recoils, fearing dissolution, it falls back into cycles of rebirth. The Gnostics taught that the spark within longs to return to the pleroma, the fullness, the source. But archons and illusions attempt to divert it. The key, they said, is gnosis, self-knowledge, to realize, I am not this transient self. I am the eternal flame wearing a mask. Modern science hesitates here, but whispers emerge. Near-death researchers like Raymond Moody record people describing a radiant light, overwhelming with love, beckoning. Many did not want to return, but some did, with the message, "You are more than you believe." Beyond the 7 days, Cayce said that after 7 days, the soul moves on to the plane most aligned with its vibration. Some rest, some prepare for reincarnation, some, luminous and free, choose to guide the living. The ancients knew this. This is why mourning lasted 7 days in so many cultures, why candles were lit, why prayers were said. They were not for the living alone. They were for the traveler, the soul completing its passage. Death is not an end. It is a mirror. It reveals without disguise who you are. The first 7 days are the unveiling. You remain close enough to touch the earth, yet distant enough to glimpse eternity. The Egyptians, the Tibetans, the Gnostics, and Edgar Cayce all spoke fragments of the same truth. You are consciousness. You are not extinguished. You cannot die. The question is not whether you survive. The question is, what vibration will you carry when you cross the threshold? Because death does not change you, it reveals you. And in those 7 days, you discover the truth long hidden, that the soul is eternal, that love is the only currency, and that what you become here, you continue to be there.